Hi guys, Virginia here and I'm back with another 12 by 12 process video for you today, and this one's for the Kitaholic Kits design team. And I'm using the November kits. Now, these are gorgeous. They're full of the Cocoa Vanilla Studios Midnight Collection and Pink Fresh Studio, not Pink Fresh Studio, is it Pink Fresh Studio? Yes, it is. Indigo Hills 2 collection. And there's some other bits and pieces in there as well. But what I decided to do was use one of this month's exclusive cut files. If you didn't already know, we get 4 every month that I create for the subscribers, and this was probably my favourite this month, this floral cut file. It's rather pretty in my opinion, but yeah, so I've cut it out of a really kind of, it's got a bit of a brownie tint to it, but it's grey cardstock, just American Crafts grey cardstock. And I decided, instead of backing it with pattern paper, because the collection, the Cocoa Vanilla Studios collection, is very soft and pretty and has specific colours in it, I thought I would back it with vellum, and that would give me the ability to use a rather, I want to say bold, but it's not, because it's just rather monochromatic, but it's very busy background paper, and the vellum just helps to kind of mute it. And yeah, so I'm deciding what pattern paper I want to use, and I was pretty sure I was going to use this, but I of course auditioned a few others, but there we go. I'm back to this one, and this is one of the Cocoa Vanilla Studio 12 by 12 papers that are in the kit, and it's just it's not really grey, it's more of a bluey grey, sketchy floral on a white background, and it's just beautiful. So I have backed my cut file with the vellum. I rambled all the way through that and decided where I'm going to place it on that pattern paper, and I was going to back my photo straight onto this pattern paper that had white and pinks and stuff in it, but decided I need to bring in a little bit more of that grey. So at first I backed it on the grey cardstock, and then I'm doing just a thin layer of that pattern paper, and that's all I'm going to do behind my photo. Now, I didn't mention the photos of Edison, of course, my daughter, and she just got a new pair of overalls for the farm, and they were pink, and she looked super cute, and the colours just went perfectly. We've got greys and a bit of a bluey grey tint to the carpet, and then the colour on the walls. It all just went perfectly, so that's why I've decided to use this photo. Yeah, so I've placed my cut file on my background paper. I found a nice little spot for my photo to sit within that cut file, and before I started any further in the embellishing, I decided to back my cut file with some foam. So I've got just some thin lines of adhesive foam behind that cut file just to prop it up. I wish I had white, because it was a little bit tricky trying to get that foam to where you couldn't see it through the vellum, because it was green and kind of ruined the look, but I got there in the end. Never mind. Rightio, so I'm going to go through the chipboard pieces first. These from the Cocoa Vanilla Studio Midnight Collection, and I was drawn to that word happy, and it just fit snugly and perfectly at the bottom of that photo, just around the shape of her leg, and I loved it, so it pretty much stays there, and that's my title. I was thinking I was going to use the bloom and grow off the sticker sheet, because, I don't know, that would be a way to bring in all those flowers, and the photo's kind of Edison. She's growing, she needed a new pair of overalls, but this happy just jumped out at me, and she's got a big smile on her face. But yeah. Okay, so just continuing to go through the chipboard pieces, I've got a jar with some florals to the right of the photo, a little tab that says My Darling, and then off the Pink Fresh Studio chipboard sheet, I've pulled off a black and white delicate little frame that I've tucked behind the photo. I like that for a little bit of detail, a bit of interest. And then I've also got a little chipboard sentiment in like a peachy colour just underneath the word happy, and it says something about happiness. Happiness looks good on you or something, maybe. But I've popped that just below the word happy, and I've also pulled off a couple of chipboard hearts from the Indigo Hills chipboard sheet. Okay, so I'm going to stop the chipboard now, and I'm going to go through the die cuts for Cocoa Vanilla Studio, And there are so many. I didn't realise there were absolutely so many, and there are a ton of flowers. And yeah, they're just beautiful. So I'm just putting up bits and pieces that I think will work. I've got a little jar with like grey on the inside, and it's got hearts in it, and so I've tucked that behind the photo just to bring some more grey in. There was a large piece with florals on it that I've tucked behind the photo at the top, but that does end up coming off. I don't particularly like it there. It's a bit too busy for that area. I wanted something a bit more sparse, or a bit more like the florals on the background, and this one is very compact and a lot smaller, so I do take it off eventually and go with some larger flowers. So continuing just sift through those die cuts. You can see I've pulled all the flowers and leaves out to the left hand side, and just kind of finding a home for them. I'm layering a couple to the left hand side of the photo, and that's bringing a bit of colour onto that cut file. And this is where I switch out that one and just put a larger floral, and that sits a lot better. It's just brings in more of that pink, and it's a bit softer than that really compact floral die cut. Another leaf underneath the cut file, or flower underneath the cut file, and then I'm just trying to find a small enough leaf for beside that other one. And then lastly, a little flower on top of the photo just to cover that sharp angle. I just want to bring a bit of softness. Okay, so just continuing, I want to bring in some more hearts, so I'm going to look for some of them. Pop those die cuts away. I contemplated a flare button, but there wasn't really a nice spot for it on the page. I'm going to bring in a few of these little tiny word stickers and just stack them underneath that title. I love to do this on layouts. Stack a bunch of little sentiments. It's a rather nice little look. We've got some hearts, so I'm just scattering them out amongst the page. Bring in some more pops of pink. And I quite like it, so I'm going to start gluing it all down. It was a bit of a mission. I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, so I just started with the outside pieces and pieces underneath. So I'm just going to glue these pieces down. Some of the Pink Fresh Studio chipboard has adhesive on it, but the Cocoa Vanilla Studio doesn't, so you've got to glue them down or use tape, whatever your adhesive preference is. I'm going to glue down these die cut pieces, just kind of work my way around doing the bottom pieces, and then I will pick up the entire cut file with all those embellishments on it and then glue it back down in place. I can pop down my frame, tuck that in place. Okay, and because that chipboard frame is dimensional, I just need to support that photo a bit with some foam at the bottom so that everything sits flush, and then I can pop my word happy back in place, and my little flower die cut, I'm going to add a little bit of foam behind that as well, just to bring a bit of interest, a bit of dimension. And then I can tuck that back under the word happy. Okay, my little label stickers, I'm going to glue them down. Just stacking them on top of each other. Just continuing, I'll glue that little heart down. And then I can flip over my entire cut file, pop glue, and then just pop it back in place. Super simple. Just pressing it down to make sure it's all going to stay stuck. Okay, so this little vase with the flowers is kind of hanging over the edge, so I want to support it while it's hanging over that right hand side of the page. So I'm just going to do a couple of layers of foam, just trying to work out where it needs the support, and then I'm going to glue it down. Here we go. And my little label or banner is going to get popped in place. And I had a chipboard tab, but I decided there was too much dimension going on and it was a little bit lost. I wanted to bring in a darker pop of pink, so I've got a die cut tab that I'm just going to replace it with and pop it up the top there, and that brings in a nice pop of pink up there. And this little flower, I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive foam behind that. Okay, I'm rather happy with that. It's got a really nice balance going on, but I did want to bring in a bit of something at the top and right of the page because it's very heavy down the bottom left. So I wanted to bring in a pop of colour, namely that pink, or peachy pink. And so I've chosen this pattern paper. It's got a really lovely ombre effect on it. And I decided to just cut 2 sides of that off. So I'm cutting 1 inch width. And then I'll do 1 inch down this side. And cut that off. Turn the branding strip off, and then for the 2 sides that is going to have the frame, I'm just going to cut 1/2 inch off either one of them. So the inch frame will give me a bit of space to glue it behind that pattern paper. Okay, so I'm just going to line it up, pop the glue behind it. Bit of glue at the top. And then I do take it over to my sewing machine. I wanted to bring in a little pop of gold and a soft little detail. So I've just stitched in a straight stitch just along that edge, just to bring in a bit of detail. And then I'm going to go along with my fingers and ruffle up that pattern paper edge just to bring a bit of texture to those 2 sides. And my little, oops, I'm going to cut off the excess cut file first. And then I can go and ruffle up those edges. Now I tried my little distresser tool, but it wasn't quite long enough. I didn't have enough pattern paper hanging out. So scissors work just as good. So I'm just going to ruffle up those edges and fold over little bits of it. The beauty part of the offside of this pattern paper is it's got a nice soft pink and white stripe. So if you fold it over, it still combines beautifully with what's on the front of the layout. Okay, just doing the last little touches, roughing it up, bringing some texture. I wanted to bring a little bit more, so I'm going to add, I thought about the pink and the Pink Fresh Studio enamel dots, but I decided to go with grey, and they matched the grey cardstock just about perfectly, so that was a win. It just adds another little detail and brings some more of that grey into the page. Okay, a few of them. And lastly, just to bring a touch more gold, we all know that I love my gold, I'm just using some gold Liquitex acrylic ink and a fine paintbrush, and I'm just doing some splatters around where I've got those little heart sprinkles and enamel dots, and that will finish off my page. I hope you enjoyed the process. I'm loving this month's kits, but until next time, bye guys.